It's starting. It's starting. It's on. It's on. This is Hangouts on Air Live. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to OreAni, the end of 2018 season. I think I spelled that wrong. Oops. Well,
What?
I think I spelled seasons wrong. I'm not going to fix it. We already have too many problems going on today. I didn't get a proofread. So, we're really late today. Sorry for all that. For our dedicated viewers, whoever you are. And as you can, I'm back hosting for us.
Everybody named Sean who goes and timestamps the video.
So I'm back hosting for us. Thank you, Albert, for taking over those last few times. You know,
You're welcome.
YouTube gave us a few problems, but we're back on track. So, introducing our cast, our crew. We got Albert.
Hello.
We have Jessica.
With cat support.
Yep.
Yampasu.
Technology. Yampasu. Nick.
With computer problems.
And Sean.
Looks like you need some cat support.
So, everyone, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go and move over to our first title, which so happens to be Sora Yori mo toi basho. So much fun, so much fun. The only question I have is it really over?
It's still airing.
Really? It made it seem like it ended to me when I saw the 12th episode.
You would
Nope,
think
it's got
that, but
13.
it's episode 13.
Oh.
And I think a dedicated member went through the list and noted what was still airing and, finished, just saying.
You're talking about. So let's go ahead and get started with the discussion. Jessica, would you head us off today?
Sure. This series really speaks to me because when I was in high school, I wanted to go to Antarctica. That was before I knew it was cold as hell and there weren't as many penguins as there should be.
I
But
couldn't tell if you
anyway-
were setting that up as satire or not.
No, it was true. Youth. Anyway, I really like these girls and all of the effort that they put in to accomplish their goal, and that effort is only part of what they need to do. Is that okay? So they've gained the ability to go, and now the hard work begins. And while the show doesn't do the typical this is what you need if you're going to Antarctica laundry list of things, it has all of that going on in the background. So it feels like they're working really hard, they're doing all of this stuff to get there, but the show spends more of its time focusing on the characters and the way they interact with each other than giving us, a how-to primer of survival in one of the most inhospitable places in the world. I really liked the background stuff too, because there's one scene where one of the girls has a frozen banana that she's using as a hammer. Did you guys catch that?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And the whole show's full of little moments and little asides where the girls will have conversations, but they'll be peeling potatoes or they'll be moving boxes, and they're constantly working. It's not a field trip. They're treated like adults on this boat. So, yeah, I really like it, and I'm glad that there's another episode because it certainly feels like it could use another one for some closure.
Agreed. I'm really enjoying it. I've been watching it, since the beginning. And at the preview, I had said, episode 1 was kind of iffy, and then by episode 2, I was all in. I guess some other people have mentioned that it was too slow up to like episode 5, and they kind of stopped watching. So I guess it could be a little bit slow development for some people, but for me, it hit everything was the right note. And these last episodes have been fantastic. From around episode 9, everyone is like, every episode since then has been like a tearjerker and an emotional roller coaster ride, and the animation supports it, the voice acting supports it, the director for the episode direction supports it, the layout support it. I mean, it is a top-notch production. I think on Mal, let me check. On Mal, it's rating 8. I'm getting feedback.
Sorry, that was me. I was trying to mute something.
Okay. So on Mal, it's my anime list. It's rating 8.31. I'm gonna see if I can do this here. Just switch out the camera. Hopefully, maybe. Okay. So this is a website that I go to occasionally to see the what the Japanese people might be looking at. It's called Anikobing, and they give you episode summaries, and you have the option of voting after you read through, giving it a ranking. And there's basically only 4 from, it's divine to it's a great episode, and it's so-so, and it was maybe, kind of, right? And so you could tell over here, this is the percentage of people who thought that the episode was divine. Okay, so I know you guys can't read it, but number 2 here is the 12th episode, and number 7 is the 11th episode, and down at number 12 and number 13 are the 9th and 10th episodes. And it really just shows you how much the people who are viewing this really think each episode has been great. Now, some of the other episodes on here, are like Violet Evergarden has 2, and so on. But for a single show like Sora Yori Motoi Basho to have 4 spots of the top 13, that indicates to you how much people are really responding to the show, at least the people who are viewing this. So I think it's a fantastic show that everyone should watch.
Mm-hmm. So I was one of the people that didn't start the show at the beginning. I didn't know what it was going to be about. I thought it was probably just going to be, hey, these kids want to go to Antarctica, and it's just going to be a whole series about them trying to get a way to get there. But surprisingly, when I talked to you guys and heard about it, it's not that. They actually get to go, and quite quickly, and that surprised me. So, and then also the, like kind of what Jessica said, I really liked the moments where learning to bond with each other and how to get used to each other, because a lot of these characters are pretty unique in the way they feel about friendship, and how, because of their past and past that and everything, then really moment in this whole series was when they got yelled at the top of their lungs, in your face or whatever that was they were saying. Just Samamiro is what Jessica said it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that was so much fun. I just loved it. And from then on, I was like, this is a great show, because it made me just, right when she was yelling, I was like, yeah, you go, girl. You did
that was
it.
kind of late in the core, just saying.
I know, but everything before that was, to me, was decent. It was good. It's just at that moment,
saying.
I was sold.
How about when all of the emails came in? That got me right in the feels.
I was actually wondering how high that number was going to go. But that's like what? How many years has she been waiting? How many years has she been sending?
Was it 3 years?
Yeah, I think so. It's basically most email a day.
Mm-hmm.
If it was 3, no, it's more than that. I think it had 1,100. But yeah,
Because you did
that
notice
was
her
a tearjerker.
in the beginning. She was always on her phone sending emails, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now you gotta finally see that she was. Honestly, I thought she was doing kind of like what they did in centimeters per second, whatever. She would write them and then delete them, type of thing. But no, she actually sent them all. So, you have anything to say, Nick?
Yeah, I'm just gonna hold my tongue on the whole email thing because I like the mechanic, but like just yeah, I'm biting my tongue here. um, it's just I did like this show all the way through. Initially when I watched the first episode, if you remember my words from the time, I quite literally at most episodes, especially towards the end, it just kind of felt like I was watching footage from like almost an anime film, not high action content or anything, but something more like the Koe no Katachi is kind of like what this whole series really reminded me of. To me, the script always felt just polished enough, and they kind of knew what to be showing at what time. When they were practicing to go to Antarctica, there was like a time I was going to get afraid that it was going to get too caught up in the training camp aspect, and they really didn't do that, which I just liked the type of content from going from when they were in school to it becoming a thing to what they did there. To me, the pacing was just kind of spot on, and the use of music alongside montage-esque moments was always just on point. So I mean, could it have been better? Probably. But like those moments just kind of like screamed out to me like whoa, this feels like a film and not like a TV episode. So earlier when we were talking about prominent titles to talk about this season, I always rank my titles sometimes based on I think to myself like what would I most likely want to buy right now just to have as part of my collection. Me this season it's this title. This is the title that like I can't wait for a licensor to bring over, and like I'm not going to wait for it to go on sale or become cheaper. I'm just going to buy it. So I really enjoyed this series. I like the characters. I like the setting, the plot. It felt really new for that reason. So
The only thing I have to say is I like the show a lot, and I'm glad that all of you enjoyed it. But I'm kind of sad that because of the type of friends I have are more into shonen or battle type shows that I probably wouldn't be able to get to recommend this to them, and I don't think they would be what type of person that would want to watch this. But, even though it has a lot of wonderful qualities in it, um, how would you say in your guys with your group of friends? Is it something that that's easy to recommend?
I don't
I mean,
think
I don't.
so. At least from my friends, they like the more action-oriented fighting stuff that's fun to marathon. The stuff that's emotional and, you know, sad or that kind of thing isn't really their cup of tea.
Like I don't usually recommend to a lot of people or anything, but I would like to say that actually a friend of mine did ask for recommendations at the beginning of it all, and she as an anime fan is a female viewer, so like I couldn't help but like want to recommend this thing because like the more dramatic stuff would be like right up that person's alley. So I haven't heard if they actually did check it out or what they think of it if they did, but yeah, like honestly, I would recommend this one to a wide variety of friends. Only even if you don't want to continue into it, this is just like one of the many things anime has to offer. It's kind of like more my selling point. Like, you try it, it's not for you, go ahead and drop it, but at least give it a chance to know, variety is the spice of life. Here is what else it is good for.
I will sort of confirm it from the other end, where a friend of mine is watching this. I don't really want to watch like another show about cute girls doing insert activity here, and also like this director. I don't really like her vibe that much. Like her shows are kind of stressful, and sometimes devolves into like lots of like screaming and kind of like high stress dialogues and stuff. I don't know. It would be a really tough sell to me. I already have Violet Evergarden if I want to watch drama. And I'm like, is this show going to be better than Violet Evergarden?
It's a tough call for that.
Yeah.
I mean, I personally think it is, but only because I think the episodic middle part of Violet Evergarden was kind of starting to drag a bit. So, but yeah, I can certainly understand. It's probably and many people, if you view the high drama, then this and Violet Evergarden are probably one or two. Either one could take the top spot.
Yeah, like, kind of, I don't know, because my point of view on it is I personally like this a little bit better than Violet Evergarden, as Violet Evergarden was like my number 2 buy on the list. It has nice polished moments of animation, Evergarden does, and this one doesn't really hit that. But I think like it's a much easier story to just kind of sink into, because Violet Evergarden is kind of like complicated, and this show isn't that complicated. Like, I think, like, not that I would recommend jumping in at any point to watch it, but you would quickly pick up on the fact that these are schoolgirls trying to get or going or have gotten to Antarctica, and you can just kind of like digest the episode from there. But Violet Evergarden would be a little bit harder just to introduce mid-core. So just like with the character background and the state of the world, and
I mean, I don't know about this show, but Violet Evergarden does have a lot of world building in it.
Yeah.
Where like every episode shows you a new facet of the fantasy world.
So I do, this one speaks to me a little bit more at just, it might be like, it might just be purely on the characters alone, where like Violet Evergarden is mostly the whole show there. They don't really focus on her interactions with any one person in particular, like throughout the whole episodes. I know there's like the one person she attached to, but like aside from that, the camera follows her the whole time. And with this show, you do have like a sense of a friendship that or like watching like friendship blossom kind of a thing. And that's like something that I don't think Evergarden just can lacks that. I think that's what makes this series even more special to me.
Yeah, I
just
see
like
what you
watching
mean.
Yeah.
Okay, we should move
All
on
right,
to the
thank
next
you.
title.
Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Yep. So here's the next title. Yoru Camp.
What? Yuru.
Oh,
Night
wait.
Camp.
Yuru.
You do?
I like Yoru
I'm
Camp.
sorry, it's backwards on my thing.
It almost sounds like it's my camp. Yoru camp.
You do. You do. I can't read
Right.
that. You flipped backwards on my screen.
What about the
Yeah,
triangle?
so
You do camp.
the triangle part is the tent. So
Is that like a map
it's a fun
marker?
show. What?
Like, is there some like standard? Does the triangle represent something standard on a map? Like, is that like a mountain or a camp or something?
I think it's just the standard elevator up button.
No, it is used for like camping sites, but I don't know if it is for a Japanese map. So,
Okay.
yeah, just briefly, it's this is actually cute girls doing cute things. Okay, and the characters design and the story and it's all the central characters, the 5 girls, it all points towards that. I know that, but it is just a lot of fun to watch them do all these cute things, learning about camping, becoming involved in not quite a club, trying to recruit people, trying to gather their camping equipment, having cute moments, where the narrator, the narrator is awesome, right? You hear him speak and he's explaining what one of the girls might be doing, like how to set up a fireplace, a campfire, or how to set up your tent. And so it ends up being, a lot of fun. And except for like one episode where the Sakuga was a little bit shaky there, overall, it's been a real pleasure to watch. I've enjoyed all aspects of it. The soundtrack is fun. The voice acting is good. The story and the scenarios that they have to deal with. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
I have to say, though, I got tricked by that last episode at the beginning. I was like, wait a
Really?
What happened?
At first, I was too, but at some point, I was like,
yeah.
It was way before that end reveal of this is obviously not the case.
Yeah,
right.
But man. Go ahead, Albert.
So the entire show covered about 4 volumes of the manga. There are currently 6 out. People are already saying they want a second season, but clearly there's not enough material. I will say that the last 2 episodes covered a lot of the chapters in the 4th volume of the manga, and they skipped over a bunch of things that they could have put in. So I'm guessing some of it will be in the Blu-ray discs, extra scenes. The soundtrack came out, and the soundtrack also had little 2-3 minute radio drama, plays in it. So I think they're covering some of that with on the soundtrack. Some of it will be probably bonus things. So maybe there will be a bonus episode. I don't know, but I hope to see some of the other missing stuff in the future.
Like the OVAs in the future.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be an OVA, because the series kind of concluded. They just had little snippets that were missing. So, for example, in the last episode, the second to last episode, episode 11, they're setting up camp, and they take a look at each other's camping gear, right? And then there is in the manga, there's a whole section about the types of air mattresses that they have, right? That was cut. There's no air mattress discussion by the narrator explaining what all the different ones are, the inflatable type, the solid foam type, none of that. So things like that were cut, and there were other scenes that were cut too. Hilariously enough, in episode 12, it starts off with, 10 years later, this could happen, right? There's also, in the manga, 50 years from now, this could happen. So I'm hoping that will get animated because it was pretty cute.
So yeah, this show was really great fun for me, and I have to admit, I think for me, Nadeshiko is what made this show. Without her, it would have I probably would have still watched it, but not enjoyed it as much. Just with her little antics and her bringing them all together, especially for that last group thing. But it honestly made me want to just, if it was still winter, if spring didn't come, I would have, when I went to Oregon here for SakuraCon, I would have said, Albert, let's go one day camping while I'm there.
Well, you're still good. There's plenty of snow up by elevation.
It wouldn't be winter camping though.
Where
See
can
some
we go,
shadows.
Albert, in near Seattle, Oregon area to get a good view of Fuji-san?
Yeah, you'd have to sell for Mount Rainier.
No, I'm kidding.
But it was really good. Good. I love the little, like you said, the narrator was pretty funny, and his whole like the way he talked in the deep voice. Here we are to do.
Yeah, because
This is what they're
he's the
doing.
voice actor for Snake.
And I also still love it when they do those little things with the little stuff they have around them that just make some noises like, "Hey, how's it going?" Or "I'm burning up here," stuff
Little
like that.
acorns and whatnot. Yeah. Pine cone.
Those things, I don't know why. Every time they made those little voices, I was like, this episode was worth it. But the friends in the camping trip or in the club were pretty fun. They just their interactions with how silly you can be when you're a child was just pretty great. But it was a really relaxing show, and I really enjoyed it for that.
The chat says that on Japanese maps, the triangle is a mountain or a summit.
Oh, there it is. Thank you, Bunny Evans. What do we have here? Jessica, you didn't watch it?
No, I didn't. I've just seen too many of the cute girls doing cute things, so it just wasn't my cup of tea.
Oh, I see. But I would have to say this show for me had the opening of the season. For every time it played, I was just like, "Yeah, here it goes. This show's now starting."
So, like, the funny thing about that is after I watched the last episode and, like, you saw that dream sequence, and then I noticed, like, a moment in the opening, and I was like, has that always been there, or did they just put it in for the last episode? I honestly can't remember, and I never went to look back to find out.
It's always been there.
Yeah. I guess people love the bunny dog.
The Chihuahua.
Those last two episodes.
Chikua.
Yeah,
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I'll usually not watch a show like if it covers a subject matter that I myself am like a little gray on. Like me personally, not a huge fan of camping. Was in the Scouts once. It rained. I got attacked by like a spider in a sleeping bag, and good times. But this show, I wasn't really interested in learning about like cold weather camping, but as like Ten kind of said, the characters just kind of help pull through a little more so, and I did enjoy at least hearing about like from the narrator's perspective or the characters like just kind of like conversing about we've been doing this for a while and we're explaining to the newbie, which would be a sit-in for the audience, like how some of this stuff works if you had an interest to ever go camp in the future. So like I appreciated some of that knowledge, even though I don't think I'll ever use it. The show was still very enjoyable to watch, and I'm not sure if the Japanese would disagree with me, but I did think that it was a little bit overbearing with its love of Fuji-san. just maybe a tad, maybe like too much or anything. But I was like,
that's because you're not Japanese and you're not in Japan.
I kind of but like there's some big mountains all around the world, and I don't know, like maybe if you live close to the mountains, some of the natives show an overbearing love for that, or maybe the Arizona guys like the Grand Canyon a whole lot. I couldn't tell you, but yeah, that was just, but like it didn't ruin the show or anything. I did kind of like how it had a particular focus on cold weather camping, because that that's kind of an oddity because whenever like I think anybody hears about camping, you know, the vision starts coming in about like summer, spring, not like, you know, going out when it's very chilly. Not usually seen as the ideal camping setting. So I think that's what also at least a little bit additionally drew me in. So like, you know, that as much as I would hate to be away from like the city, um, it was an enjoyable show.
If you guys want to know real camping, or maybe just hiking, I guess, just follow Albert. He's always posted a bunch of hiking pictures out there when he goes out around.
Not so much last year, but hopefully more this year.
So I don't know if I'll be able to do anything over here, but I'm probably just too attached to my technology to go right now. Let's go to another show, shall we? So we were just talking about cute girls doing cute things. What happens when cute girls do other things? We got Chris.
that was a bad lead-in.
Yeah, it's not a bad segue.
So I haven't seen all of it, so I don't know how this show ends.
You stopped it at that one
finished.
moment when they were in the manga cafe reading the one manga.
So let's see. Who marked this as the top show? Oh, Jessica.
Just because I haven't really finished much. This is one of the only ones I've finished other than Mahoyome and another one. Anyway, I'm not really sure what to think about this because on one hand, Yuri and Yaoi shows have very low quality in terms of the writing and the believability. But on the other hand, taking that into account, this show's okay. And it's probably one of the okayer Yuri shows. There's some weirdness. Oh my gosh, where to even start? So it's kind of like a class S relationship that's been inverted, where the cool type character is actually the younger sister to the more naive, outgoing, brash, stupid one. So that's kind of interesting. But where it gets a little muddy is that these two girls are stepsisters and they share the same room, and their mother bought them one bed, which was just really weird.
Yeah, so I think we can all agree that the writing is not good in the show.
No.
At all.
No.
Because, you know, I understand you need to set it up, but everything is contrived, right? I mean, in what age does the mom remarry without even introducing her new husband to your own kid?
Exactly.
You know, or even show a picture of him.
Yeah. And just saying when May shows up, oh yeah, by the way, you have a little sister now. Like who would do that? But again, because the bar is so low for Yuri, that's actually better writing than you're gonna get out of this genre.
Wow, that's pretty awful. Yeah, and the whole it's a pretty fancy apartment for Japan with huge rooms, and yet why would you be sharing a room with, you know, your brand new? They're just a few months apart, right?
Yeah.
And it's one bed. I mean, they had two futons, but it totally makes no sense.
When you're a teenager, you need your space. You need one little tiny corner of the world that is yours where you can go and sulk and stew in your angst. And to not give that to these girls is just kind of weird.
Yeah, and then later on, everything is contrived. So like the new husband, father shows up. Of course, he's completely, you know, Yuzu the main character, she doesn't even know who he is when he just shows up in the apartment, right? Okay, that's also contrived, and then it keeps continuing like that. Even earlier, the mom never told the Yuzu that her new dad's father is actually the not the principal, but the what is it? The dean? No, not dean. But he's in charge of like the board of education of the school, right? So none of these relationships are ever explained, just so that the characters can react in surprise. And everything that's done has been to set up some sort of contrived obstacle to their budding relationship, if you can even call it that, because it, frankly speaking, feels a little bit rapey.
Yeah, just a little. And every single new character that's introduced is somehow trying to come between these two characters. So the first time that happened,
in a very contrived way.
Yeah, it's okay, so here's the character that's gonna piss in everyone's Cheerios today, and then they resolve that, and then a new character is introduced who does the same thing, tries to split them up apart, misunderstandings, and then there's a third set of characters that come in, and it's by that point it's just, oh my gosh. It certainly could have some better writing, but again, low bar.
Yeah, and it's based on a manga.
Yeah, like that was kind of like my whole thing. I could understand like if it was like original for complaining about like the script, but like I was like, this is kind of based off of comics. So.
Yeah, they could have done a lot to fix things, and Mei is unlikable. I really can't see beyond a physical attraction why Yuzu would love her, because she is just so cold and so condescending to Yuzu and doesn't even really seem to like her. She just kind of tolerates her. That the relationship makes no sense, and it's kind of painful to watch Yuzu just following her around and trying to get her to respond. And Yuzu also gets drunk somehow off of soda in a hotel lobby and is just loudly monologuing in the hotel lobby, and nobody says or does anything. And how many tackles were there in the entire show? I should have kept track, but there's so many times where the characters will just run after another one and do the full body tackle in the middle of the street. And no one stops and says anything or even looks at them weird.
Wait, full body tackles don't happen in Japan?
I mean, everything is contrived, like I said, and the background characters exist just so, I don't know. I mean, sometimes there are no background characters in scenes where there should be, like in the street, in a busy street during the middle of the day. So it's not, I can't recommend this at all. I'm actually stopped at episode 10. I haven't watched the last two because I couldn't stomach it.
No, it does not improve.
I stopped when like the first rival showed up, like the stuck-up goth loli type.
Oh yeah.
I did get the sense, like, even though I'm not really immersed in the Yuri genre, and this was kind of like the first one of these that I tried to watch, but I did get the sense that it was like an nth generation product, in the sense that like it didn't handle the suspension of disbelief very well, like you guys were talking about. And then at one point, she's like reading a Yuri manga in a manga cafe.
I thought that was actually pretty funny, though.
and that was more like the explicit signal that this is an nth generation product, and this is for people who love these tropes and don't really care like how we get to the tropes, as long as the tropes are, you know what I'm trying to say. So I'm kind of glad that I got off the train. But so I felt like once the novelty of the genre kind of wore off, then I started. I felt like I got off when there was nothing left, for it to offer me. Because I'm like, okay, I know where the rest of this is going.
It was in a really weird space where there's some Yuri, like, was it Sakura Kiss or Sakura Trick? That's just totally for titillation. and it owns that and it does it well, and story be damned, it doesn't matter. But this one doesn't really even have that going for it either. So it's like, what is this show trying to be? It kind of started out that way with this really in-depth, gross, kind of gropey scene. And again, who would do that on the first day of school to someone that they've just met? I don't know. But then it doesn't really elaborate on that later on, except for some kissy scenes. But there's not even one of those in episodes, so it doesn't really go one way or the other in terms of, it doesn't do the story well and it doesn't do the Yuri stuff well. So what are we left with?
I mean, it's just kind of less mainstreamish appeal, because I think there are probably better hentai Yuri out there that's much better written, frankly speaking. So you could probably skip this, you know.
Skip, yeah.
Surprisingly, actually, the only reason I watched it, because it seemed like a lot of people were watching it. That's why I started watching it. I was actually not even going to get into it, but people were like posting pictures about it and talking a little bit about it. So I was like, what is this show about? And decided to watch it.
The art is pretty. I mean, that's about the only nice thing I have to say about it.
Well,
Yeah,
that's it for
I
these.
don't know. Like, for me, it was more like of a perhaps slightly above mediocre title. And when I say mediocre, it's probably not like your guys' mediocre. It's like, you know, for school warfare or whatever, mediocre.
Nick.
Yeah, like that type of show is my like absolute mediocrity. So just that, like using that as a scale for you guys. I did enjoy some of the talk of the like, you know, how thematic I guess some of the characters were, because like, or tropey I guess I should say, not thematic. I did kind of like seeing some of the situations that the script did concoct. Like, you know, you kind of had that Matsuri pink-haired controlling character. You kind of knew like what was par for the course for that, but like that, like scenes like that kind of actually, like, you know, shocked or opened my eyes in a sense, because it's like it's the characters that I was really watching it for. It wasn't the scenes, it wasn't the drama, it was the characters. You know, like, is Harumin gonna get another awesome scene? Is she gonna continue to be awesome? What's gonna happen to this you know, pink-haired person that you're obviously trying to make us despise? Like, I know it's not gonna end with despair, so like, where is this gonna end? And I did actually kind of like the addition of the last two characters in the series. Like, it wasn't like anime greatness, but it didn't make me upset with the series at the same time. So overall, I did enjoy it. At a recommended, like at a recommendation level, I'd honestly just say I probably wouldn't recommend it. But as always, you know, if you are checking it out and it's not your jive, drop it. Like, never watch anime that you're not liking. But yeah, I just kind of like based off community response and all that. I know a lot of people who did read the manga really liked the manga, so I hear, but I don't know how well that translates to the anime. But like, I don't like hear people just outright, you know, like kind of like bad mouthing it ever at the same time. So it can't be too horrible.
All right.
Like, it's never gonna earn that like school day status or whatever.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and move on. While we love to talk about Yuri, let's go ahead and talk about magical girls. Or maybe just one magical girl, right? I don't know how many there are in this show. Grand Crest Senki.
I thought that was the title for a different show. Dang.
Wait, is it? Do I have the wrong
No,
thing?
you're good. I just thought it was the Maho Sky one for whatever reason.
This was a show I actually really did want to watch, but never picked it back up after the first arc, I think. So Jessica,
I liked it, but that does come with some caveats. Is that even though I found this to be an enjoyable show, it's not a good one. Um, it feels like the Cliff Notes version of the light novel. And if I had to hazard a guess, I would say that they went through probably 4 or even 5 novels worth of material in this anime series, which I haven't seen all of it yet. The last 2 episodes I think I still have to watch. But there's
it's a 2 course, so it's still gonna go
oh,
on.
it is. Okay.
Yeah.
There's an episode with the werewolf clan that felt like it could have been at least 3 episodes. We learn that there are vampires and there are werewolves and things happen, and at the end we get 2 little werewolf maids to help out around the castle, which maids are awesome, cool. But I felt like there could have been a lot more elaboration and world building that we just didn't get. And so I feel like reading the novels is probably the better way to experience the story, because the direction isn't that good either. Is there are a lot of close-ups of characters' faces, and when they should be moving, they're not. So it's not a very interesting show to watch because so many of the cuts are similar. They're showing the different face, but from the same angle constantly. That said, though, I really did have a good time just because the story was intriguing, and it wasn't an isekai, because I am done with that.
Aww.
But that's that's really all I have to say.
you mean you're saving the isekai for the Shield Hero, right?
Exactly. Yeah, ReZero's awesome.
Yeah, like I didn't really look at the numbers too closely, but I think less people reviewed Citrus, but Citrus actually got a higher mal rating than this one currently did. And my 2 cents on this one was like I was immediately grasped by a lot of its mechanics. Like that whole like crest magic system stuff, like I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. This feels like a game mechanic. Like I would almost believe this story was, you know, from like a gaming series instead of a light novel. But where it kind of started losing me was like when it really got way too political. Like I liked how the characters were strategizing at times, but then I think it just kind of played into it too much. Like, you know, we hear that one of the main protagonists is like a really great maid because she could use a lot of magic, and throughout the whole series, she barely uses any magic. It's like okay, so she can use all types, but like, what good is that doing? Because I'm not seeing it. Like, I'm not seeing this great character be great. There was like one kind of cool magic thing that they did like in this Navy warfare scene, but it's like for all of the world building that this series put in the beginning, it just felt like it got too lost in its politics to me, and you know, like as like the pacing kind of being slowed for that reason. So it is very elaborate. I and probably you will be very lost on a lot of the regions and various cities and who they have ties with and why they're attacking for what reason. I kind of had to like just ignore like a lot of that. Like, oh, these guys are being fought with because a war has to happen. I don't particularly care who's attacking because like I can't be arsed to keep up with all these darn cities and counts and people. But yeah, like this is a show that I can honestly say I really looked forward to at the beginning, and now it's kind of dragging with me. So like I'm not quite sure where the rest of the core is going to be going, kind of a thing. I guess I'm glad that the story is continuing to some further conclusion, but like this whole first core, like I just hated how gripping it was in the first few episodes, only to pan out to what it did.
Real quick, Nick, were you talking about Silka, the Rainbow Witch?
Yeah, Siruka.
Yeah, that was Benny Evans' question on YouTube. So. We do have a slight delay, so if you ask questions, then get to us a little late. So, from your guys' discussion,
Sorry, guys.
it doesn't look like something I might want to continue.
But yeah, like I just don't really want to say like everything yet because it hasn't come like it's at its halfway point. So like I'll have a more developed like feeling about the show at the end of it. I'll probably keep watching it no matter what, even if it continues at this pace of I don't know.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title, which is like a kind of been really fun for me. Overlord 2, second season. Although it's not finished right now, we can go ahead and start. I think, is this going to be a two core?
I don't think so.
Or is this going to end here soon?
Yeah, it's
Maybe
got
2 more
13
episodes?
episodes, so this is gonna be all in this core.
Okay, so I think we got episode 11 right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I believe so.
Yeah, so I'm excited to see what these next 2 episodes have got for us because I'm a pretty big fan with the light novel, so I'm excited. Jessica, can you?
Oh, just that
Yeah.
I'm also a big fan of the novels. They're a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the Lizard Man arc probably the most out of all of the Overlord material, just because those guys are so gosh darn plucky. I really like them. It's pretty much par for the course of what it was. Oh, my cat just killed a slipper. Yes, you're so good. You're such a yes, you are good kitty. Sorry about that. She's an indoor cat, and they get kind of funny. Where was I? Oh yeah, it's pretty much the same quality and writing as the first course. So if you didn't care for that, chances are you will not care for this. But if you liked it, you'll definitely like this arc because the world starts to get a little bit bigger, and we learn more about the world that Ainz Ulgon is inhabiting. So good stuff.
So I'm actually going to be like the voice of contrast here. Not that I'm particularly antagonistic to anything, but that arc actually kind of rubbed me the wrong way at the very beginning, only because I think it was kind of a rough way to start a new core off with after you had that big of a break. Like I wish they just kind of eased into that arc a little bit, slower, because it was kind of funny when I was watching the first few episodes. I think I did mention this in the first hangout too. Like I kind of forgot what I was watching for a moment because like all of the main cast of characters were not present. There was a moment that I paused it, and then when I went back to watch, I'm like, okay, what show was I watching again? Actually, what show is this? But like after that arc did resolve, it did kind of fall back into, continuing and figuring out this world that they're in, and just getting involved in isekai stuff. So I actually did end up enjoying the later core, or the later part of the core, much more so than the earlier aspect of it. And the only one thing that I want to actually tack on as a bonus is there is a the person who's going to be the English voice actor for the show made an announcement that that's the role they got like early into the few episodes. So it was kind of funny because like in all the areas of the social media that they posted that into, they got in the voice. Sorry, I didn't specify of the female lizard character. I forget what her name is. Does anybody remember? Kurush, yes. So this person goes, I'm going to be this, like the voice actor of this character. And all the comments practically were by people who either A, knew the content, or B, were watching like the anime head of the English dubbing. and we're talking about the one scene that this character is going to have to voice. Like, they were like asking, did they tell you about that? Or I can't wait for this. And it was just kind of funny.
I forgot about that scene.
And it was just kind of funny because, I lurked through the whole thing. I didn't actively like add in any comments or anything, but just kind of like witnessing that was kind of funny. Like the sub community having a one over the dub because they knew something because like any fan of that person was kind of like like being exposed to like what?
She'll get a voice double during that time.
So yeah, I actually don't know if she priorly knew about that scene or not, but like I didn't stick along with to see if that question was ever answered, but.
Now, Nick, I'm going to agree with you. When the series first started, and even when I started with stuff, I was like, what? Why am I reading this? I wanted to follow, Momo and see all the stuff that they're going to do to try to figure out the world, not go to these lizard people. And actually, even afterwards, when I got to the next book, which is the arc they're going on right now about the princess and the other clans, I was like, I think I did skip a few pages and stuff. I'm like, go back to when they come back. I want to see the fight, or I want to read about the fight and all the things that they're going to be doing. So, watching the anime, I did get a little more backstory of the princess now because I think I skipped a lot of that. But I'm really excited for these next 2 episodes. It's going to be, there's just a few scenes that I know are going to happen that I'm going to have a lot of fun with. And
some pretty cool fights coming up.
Yes. And I'm very, very excited for this, and I've been waiting for that. But other than that, I really have nothing else to say about Overlord. I mean, if you saw the first season, you're probably watching the second one, and it's not something you can just dive into. I know a lot of people kind of said that they weren't going to watch it because they're tired of the whole gaming aspects that's been going on with a lot of other shows, but
I would think that this would be the answer for that then, because the perspective is shifted away from Ainz and his all-powerful abilities to the more mundane and normal NPC type people. So if you don't like that about the video game thing, then this would be right up your alley.
Yeah. Like,
because this one felt less game-like than the previous core.
Yeah, and the only times it really does remind you it's a game, or he was when he does his flashback memories. Other than that, it's like you're just watching a fantasy world. And
yeah.
So maybe you could try again if that was your gripe, but I don't know. Anyone else have anything to say about Overlord?
I'm watching it. I'm enjoying it, and I agree that it's a little bit different than your average run-of-the-mill isekai show, including trapped in a game world subgenre. So it's interesting in that the main character, right, and his motivations don't always mesh with his follower and NPCs. So it becomes more of a political drama sometimes as he tries to balance his paranoia of being trapped in the world he has, not detailed information about, because it's no longer the game world. He got transposed from the game world. So he's paranoid that there are other people out there that know about him or know about their abilities and could be gunning for them. And at the same time, so he plays it cautious, right? Whereas in a lot of these other shows, the badly written ones, the hero is like, I'm the strongest, swordsman in the world, and I'm going to go out and kick some ass. And no, in this case, he is paranoid that other beings are out there and just haven't shown their full, face. So I kind of find that interesting. I also find that their morality, because most of them, his NPC followers are demons and undead and other things, right? Their morality is not the classic good evil axis. They kind of behave in a very different way. And so that's kind of interesting to see how sympathetic of a character you can create out of a monster that typically you would be afraid of and go and kill and hunt in the regular isekai shows. So I think that those are some unique aspects of the show. That's it.
All right. Thank you for your thoughts, Albert. I'll have to think more about that. I like how you put that out there.
Yeah, and I kind of actually feel that element is even a little bit more so at play, because like kind of like what you were saying, the character has to fit his role sometimes, and they totally purposely like implemented that mechanic of him as a person almost being forced like into a role, because like at times like his emotions like just are forcibly controlled to make him become a character more fit for the role at the time. So it's like, even though he was a real world person, he's almost being forced to play his character in a way. Like, your character wouldn't do this right now. So like, for whatever reason, there's like a world mechanic that is messing with him at like kind of like a mental level.
Yeah.
So what do you think of how they're trying to do the character developments for some of the monsters? Like, what's his name? In the first battle, how he was fighting with, he didn't want to kill such excellent warriors and stuff. And then even just recently with the butler, Sebastian, him taking on the feelings of
Cocutus, are you talking about, or the person
Cocutus
was fighting?
him at first, yeah. And even Sebastian, how he's changing, he's trying to protect that one maid, or the slave girl, whatever you want to call her.
Right. I mean, I think, they, in game, in story, right, the NPCs are created beings based on his other, Momon's other game buddies, right? So they were all created by the people that created his guild, and they all have like quirky personalities. But at the same time, what he's trying to do is to give them, he's trying to let them behave and learn in a way such that they're not just a simple follower. That's not what he, wants anymore, because they've come to life and he wants them to behave, as his friends, I think. And so that's a fine balancing act he has to play as supreme ruler of the guild. And at the same time, his personal goals might be slightly different than what the guild's goals are, but he can't actually come out and say that, or he would be betraying their trust, inherent trust in him. So, yeah, I mean, all that I think is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and move on to the next title. Next up is Mitsubishi Colors.
Yes, tell us about the lollies.
Oh, yes, lollies. That's what people think about this show, only because it has lollies in it. But other than that, I was actually really surprised by how fun this show is. And I think it's just because of my taste in comedy. I love puns, for one thing. Puns are just so great, and they tell quite a few puns, and just how they incorporate them I was just laughing quite a bit, and also um, there's just a lot of just moments in the show that just made me bust out laughing, and because of that, I had to keep on watching. And Mitsuboshi Colors is very episodic and just a bunch of like short stories of what these girls do in their everyday lives. And some of it actually surprises me with like, how can these girls get away with so much in their town? But it just seems like they're the kids around that everyone knows. Everyone sees them. Oh, hey, Colors, how you doing? Oh, come by a little bit later. We got some candy for you. And just a lot of these moments just I found funny and interesting. Like they have the old runs the toy store. His name is they call him Pops or Oyaji, and he's always like giving him new toys and new things. And one day they give the kids this big box of like old games and stuff that he used to play with, and they're sitting there with Saito going through it and like, what's this? What's that? And then at the end of it all, the kids are like, so these are the games that Pops had to use in his childhood, and they're like came to the conclusion that Pops was trying to tell him that he had a hard childhood life because he had no fun at all. So, oh man, I think you have to have a unique humor to really enjoy the show. So it was just so much fun just watching every single new episode. Like I said, it's very episodic, but in some shows they do make some references to a few jokes they made in the past. So although you may not get some of the comedy, but there's just plenty, at least for me, and uh, any others that might like slapstick comedy as well, puns, and all sorts of things. And the show does a pretty good job of uh, turning those puns in a way that's translated that you can read it and have still enjoy the jokes that they're making.
Yeah, like I imagine that to be a very difficult. Like I was going to ask about that at the end of your spiel because like this is a show I kind of gave up on. It didn't really entice me in the first episode. So hearing that it was like pun heavy and like I know the difficulties about stuff like that. Like you know, Bakemonogatari was a thing. Um, like I still can't even begin to fathom how much of Bakemonogatari it was impossible or difficult to translate just for translation's sake. So like as a series invested in that, I was going to ask you like not that or maybe like it'd be more interesting if Albert watched it. Like how well do you think they did as someone who could who knows both Japanese and English?
Yeah, I haven't watched it, but Tyler recommended it, and Tank is now saying that it was a lot of fun. So if I have some time, I might go back and take a look at it.
One of the jokes they did one time was they went to the zoo because they read this book about how during wartime that they put poison in the food to kill the animals so that they wouldn't escape if something happened. The elephants would eat it, and because they could smell the poison, so they ended up starving to death. So the girls all started crying, and they decided they're going to go to the zoo and to check on the animals and make sure they're being fed and to see what's going on. Maybe they don't have the money. And when they get there, they realize that children can go in free, and they're like, "Uh-oh, why are we allowed free? They must not be making any money at all. So these elephants, oh no, they must not get." So they call the elephants, I think, Joes, something like that. I don't know the exact pronunciation they were using, but she used that in a lot of her comments, like "Kawaii Joe." It's so pitiful, but and they would translate it in such a way that you could understand that she was trying to make a joke of adding the words to make she was saying "kawaii so" to say that's so sad, but also using the elephant word in it. So you would have to watch it to get the full gist of it, but to me, they did an excellent job of it. And And like I said, the straight man jokes and everything. Like they even had a part where they're trying to figure out like we need a new member because I'm the jokester. She's the person that does that something else, but we don't have a straight man. So the girl's like, I'm the straight person. And every time she tried to play the straight man, it always failed so miserably. It was just so funny because she would try to do that thing and they would just stare at her and walk away. And like, it was just so hilarious. And she's like, has this like,
Yep.
I don't know how to explain it.
Poor kid.
Yeah. And it's funny because even the friend tries to help her. Like, whenever the girl made a comment, she would start nudging her. She's like, what? Oh, yeah, the straight man. And she tried to pull it off again. Just utter silence. And then they just turn away from her and walk away again. So it had a lot of great moments. And it had all different types of comedy, like I said. Yeah, I hope maybe some other people pick it up. But it's just your average, you know. I know you think it's a lolly show, but I wouldn't say it's really focused on being like, oh, kawaii lollies or anything like that. No, it's just these kids just having fun and just doing stuff, and they just happen to be young, you know.
Mm.
What about that shogi show? Is that the Loli show?
Yeah, now that one's a lolly show. Okay, now that one is full blown, you know. Look at this cute girl. Don't you want to hug her? Don't you want to do all sorts of weird stuff?
No.
Like, I mean, play shogi
Dude,
with her.
I think that came out a little wrong.
No, I mean, that's that show. This is not that. This is just, I remember my childhood. Oh man, I remember. Like even the girl was just making comments. I'm so great because I am stupid. Yeah, it's great to be a stupid kid. You know, just weird things like that. It was just total nonsense half the time, but it was funny. uh, since Sean started talking here, let's go ahead and talk about a show he has seen. I can find the title here. Darling of the Franks.
Of
Yeah.
the Franks.
Oh, in the
Go to the show.
I got the wrong word. It's not of, it's in.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm still watching it. The more I watch it, the more it reminds me of a A1 picture show than it does a Trigger show.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so I'm
totally
not
had that
the only
feeling a
one.
second ago.
Yeah.
Like I didn't get that. I didn't feel that way from the first few episodes, but I do. The only thing I want to mention before I give my take, because I want you to absolutely continue, is like this is another show where we're at the halfway point, right? Like we're not
Sure.
near the end of this thing. So
What about it?
no, that's like we're at the mid-core point. So like the first core is over. There's still a second core coming.
Yeah.
So like it's not over. Is all I'm saying. It's not end of. It's end of season, but not end of anime.
So now it's kind of settled into this like heavily episodic rhythm. Uh, so it's basically like an anime soap opera, but it's very episodic in the sense that like you know which character it's going to be about this episode, and you know they're going to resolve it at the end of the episode by getting into the robots and having some epiphany. I guess the other new thing, or the other recent thing, is like they finally caught a glimpse of the city and the people who live in it, which is like some of the first solid info we got about the city. Because I didn't know like what is the city even real, or is it like a Potemkin village? But apparently people do live there. But they all just sort of like zone out in these pleasure machines. So I don't really know what that's a metaphor for. Like, is that just like a metaphor for like our entertainment options are so great that we don't need to like have relationships or anything like that anymore. We can just have these. We can just play video games or watch movies or whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I
Yeah,
guess
like there was this contrast of like what society has become versus like the kids are like the experiment of like what society is like today, and they're like seeing how that works instead of their society of the future.
Yeah, I think at
It's
one
kind of
point
like what it seems like to me.
the like adult mastermind said something like they live a more classic or traditional lifestyle or something. So we're going to do something traditional for them, which is like give them medals. But then that one kid like wandered like deep into the city and like met the people who lived in it. It was pretty fucked up. But I was kind of disappointed in it because it was kind of like fucked up in a really expected way. That it like ties in so heavily to like what the rest of the show is about. That it's kind of like if it is a twist really a twist if if it just falls in line with exactly what you expected out of it.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, and it does seem really. I mean, they're laying all these hints down, right? That the society is messed up. It's very dystopian, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they've already made hints, and they do the classic. Oh, this the person that you meet in the city is about to tell you something, but then gets interrupted when the security people show up. I'm like, just come on. I mean, we already know that the kids are not allowed to become adults for a reason. You could just say it because we already know it. Why drag it out so much? And it's been that way for for the last, I don't know, the four episodes, I think, where it's been episodic, trying to develop each of the individual characters.
Mm-hmm.
But strangely enough, mostly centered on the guys, right now.
Yeah,
we did Zorome, we did Mitsuru, and we did Goro, right? So is it time for Futoshi to get his episode? And the girls are all what? The girls will get their own episodes in the second half. It seems, I don't know. The cast of characters is large, and they are diluting, I think, their focus. I mean, yes, you do need character development, but I don't know what they're doing. It does seem very A1-esque with a large cast, and I think it's to the detriment of the overall story.
Yeah, because like what I was kind of remembering, let me turn this back on. Was like at first I was thinking like this is obviously like a trigger thing, like this whole, not the mech design, but like the mechanics are very trigger of everything. Like it's there for shock value. It will be talked about. But it took me as long as like the show kind of slowly becoming this, fighting the not like fight of the week, but the quirky element, like kind of like how that Evangelion aspect that kind of started a lot of those, like we have this invader thing and they all have like special abilities and we got to find their weakness and we got to save humanity. When that really started setting in, huh?
We got to like find the core and stab it or whatever.
Yeah, like strike witches. When it started becoming strike witches, I was like, oh, okay, here's A1.
Strike
there
witches.
They are. That's absolutely not trigger. So yeah. I do kind of have to not like necessarily take back because that was just my initial impression, but I'm even more lost as to where this show is going at this time. It sure is taking its sweet time getting there, and maybe that'll be worthwhile. Maybe it won't be, but it's slowly like raising many more questions than like it's spending its time carrying to answer at the time, and that's what I'm wondering. I'm like, is this going to be worth it, or is it going to be a little bit lackluster? Because they're choosing to do weird things at weird times. Like it was so weird how the relationship between 02 and the protagonist, I'm just forgetting his name right now, was like always this sure thing. It was always this, you are my darling, as weird as that sounds, but the show is called Darling in the Franxx, so that works. And then we kind of start seeing the character who was always like almost single-mindedly focused on combat, or just like this wild animal, or not animal, but like because she's part of the enemy, right? Like she has the enemy blood in her, so she's not purely human, but she sure totally seems like it. And
Yeah.
I was
Also, I think at one point they said like the kids are all infected with something
yeah.
that will prevent them from being a part of the weird adult society.
Well, because like what further beyond that, like because they do mention like the blood cell count, so I kind of wonder what that is. But like what I was saying is like you see this development of Zero Two's character as she like integrates with people. She kind of starts becoming distant all over it. So it's like, she used to be this full throttle character, and now it's like something's on her mind and she's not as gung ho full throttle as she once was. Like in combat, sure, but you kind of got to wonder, like at time. Well, you don't have to, but it's like you took this character who was so iconic, and although you're developing this new dimension to her, you know, is it working at this time? I think a lot of people are probably getting lost on the Zero Two ship. Not that I care, but that whole like infected thing of the children was kind of interesting because it totally revealed this mechanic when, as you were saying, that one kid was venturing through their society of how like their proximity to the people with like that assumably magma fueled like heart thing, whatever that was, like they kind of like are almost irradiated, and like their presence amongst other people kind of slowly eats away at them if they weren't, like I guess like have the constitution and the I don't know if they weren't used to it or whatever, because I forget how like they have the two aides who service the children don't seem to have that like, yeah.
Yeah, it makes
Too
you
many
wonder
questions right now.
how those adults are different from the ones that are in the city. And yet it also makes
Yeah.
you wonder like what so how are the children different from the adults? And do the children also have a piece of the Klaxosaur in them, maybe to a lesser extent than Zero Two does? Did Zero Two ever get a name? Or is she still Zero
No,
Two?
she's still 02.
Great. Uh, and so that also raises questions about like what exactly are the Klaxosaurs? Is there some dichotomy where like the Klaxosaurs are some extreme on one end, and the the zoned out adults in the city are some other extreme where they've like forsaken all human relationships? And I think Zero Two knows the answers to some extent, and she probably recognizes like how pointless it is to defend the city, how pointless it is to fight. So I just sort of chalk that up to why she's so despondent. And she probably doesn't want to like break it to all the children that like you're fighting for no reason and someday they're going to throw you away. You're just all going to die or something. I don't know. I don't really have like really high expectations for the series. Like I kind of wanted it to go into some unexpected directions, but so far it's been very expected. But it's still fun to watch. I remember one of the episodes. It was the one where they like switched partners. I remember that one looked like exceptionally good. Like both the character animation and like the mecha animation looked like twice as good as it usually did. So that was a treat.
Yeah, that was the latest episode.
Yeah, I was gonna say like that one that is the last content you probably watched from the series.
Okay, I mean I watched like a whole bunch at once to catch up.
Oh,
So
okay,
it's all kind of jumbled in my mind. What happened when?
gotcha.
I only have one question, and that's for Albert, because Albert pointed this out when it first started that this show had a lot of focus on butts. Is it still that way?
Uh-huh.
It still makes me chuckle, when they talk about how we need to get back up and get back in the fight, and then the girl just like presents her butt and it's basically like, okay, now grab my butt, let's get back in there. It's like, oh right, the show is stupid. I almost forgot.
I wouldn't call it that. There was kind of another one that seemingly took that title, but yeah, like this is kind of like it's only interesting me because I kind of want to know where it is going. Like, I can't wait for it to get there. But like, it was very gripping in its initial kind of tell because of like how the community snapped into it, and like towards this later core, it's starting to get to a point where it lost that like initial luster, and it's like, all right, get to the second stage of your story soon, or you know, and I can actually kind of see them easing into it because like you've got the one character who's fixated with that book she's got, so it's like I wonder where that's going in and of itself. But like I just can't. It's just not developing quickly enough for what I would have liked with the way that this series opened. So
I think for me, I would like to see like some novelty injected into what's there, because what is there is super derivative. You know, whether you're looking at the character drama stuff, I feel like I've seen all these characters before, or you're looking at the sci-fi mecha stuff, like all that's like insanely derivative. Like every part of it comes from something else. You know, like Evangelion.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell it goes all the way back to Gynax and before that, right?
Yeah.
that lineage, the ape Supreme Council members and the mysterious blah blah blah, and
the
way
user
the
interface
design
is also very reminiscent as well, like their computer systems.
Yeah, lots of like
yeah.
colorful on black, kind of like Star Trek: The Next Generation looking stuff. That's like a lot of oblique elements. Yeah, it's pretty. It's derivative top to bottom. So I would like the show to get to the part where the kids learn the deep dark secret and they realize they can't fight anymore and they take their robots and go rogue or something. I don't know. Whatever comes next.
You know, like, not that this is like too much of a spoiler or anything, but like it was also kind of interesting in the most recent episode to kind of like see that like Berserker Ava element get revealed. Like, oh no, they're generating too much power. They're going to like rampage mode. Like, you guys can't handle that yet. Don't do that. I was like, wait, what? There was still an element you're with. I mean, that's cool and all, but that's totally like a Berserk Ava.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, didn't they introduce that before at some point? It's like, if
I mean,
what was it? I forget which is which, Pistol or Stamen, but if the
no,
girl
like, I
takes
think
full control of the robot, then it goes into some sort of berserk mode, right?
I know Ichigo tried to pilot once, but I don't know if it really underwent a change. And I know when like 02 piloted it alone, like it had that very Zoids look.
Right.
That's the only way to put it.
I mean, it's implied that at the time it was implied that Strelitzia, the mecha that they pilot, itself was special, right? But now it seems like all of them have the ability to go into Rampage, or I think they called it Stampede, maybe.
Oh yeah,
Rampage, whatever. Right? It's kind of, it's weird. Oh, by the way, I'm sure someone already realized this, but it was only recently when I was looking up something completely separate. I was looking up a flower name, right? I realized that Strelitzia and all the other mechas are named of plants. Most of them, the 4 out of 5 are flowering plants. So that was
I can't say I'm proficient with plant knowledge.
Yeah. But the fact that the pilots are pistils and stamen, which are flower parts, right? So
yeah,
the reproductive parts of the flowers. So like, oh, okay, that does make sense. But what does it actually mean? I kind of want to just get to it and explain things.
Well, they are pretty thorough with their metaphorical terminology.
Yeah, everything is sex.
Although the weird like meeting of colonies, they call it kissing. Like, that's a little silly.
Yeah, it's that and everything is very like, it's like everything is a metaphor for sex. It seems like. you know.
Was that most
So
recent thing they did? Did they literally like was it called like S planning or something? Like the whole like mining thing that they had to defend in that newest episode?
yeah, but it's not explained, right? And that's
Yeah,
when the
not yet.
partner swapping happens, right? And then like Futoshi is piloting with Ikuno, and he's like, "No, you need to relax. You need to relax." uh, and just add in bed, right?
You're too
Or
tense.
yeah, and then on the other hand,
Totally
when
remember that
Kokoro
moment.
and Mitsuru is piloting, and she makes comments about that, and then I think early on when Mitsuru and Ikuno were having troubles powering up, like she's like, just give me a second, just give me a second, I'll be warm enough, but then they fail, right? So it's hilarious in some ways, and also just can you just get over that and get into the story instead of being cute about it? So
I do actually like the sexuality aspect of it. It's now that I go back and think about Citrus, that's also why I watched, like 4 episodes of that. Because I'm past the point of watching some sort of shoujo-esque romance drama, and
yeah,
Citrus was different. Like it got to the like bold sexuality right away, and I'm like, oh. So I guess that's like the novel part of Pranks. Like even if like its individual parts are like hyper derivative, but like
we'll
the
see if it
metaphor is kind
can.
of neat, even though it's blunt.
Yeah, but we'll see if they can bring it together in the second core, because it needs to do something. You can't have like a giant climax of cramming 5 episodes into the last two, and then the rest of it being boring, right? So
Yeah. Yeah, like, I wish it wasn't as derivative because, like, structurally, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. Like, it's sort of developing each of the characters in this very methodical fashion. So it's just the characters are not that original.
right. Well, we'll find out.
Yep.
So wait for our spring end of the season to find out the rest, right? Probably.
Yep.
All right. Thank you, guys. Let's see. What do we got next? Oh, this show. We were talking about it earlier when we were talking about the Antarctica show. Violet Evergarden. Now, a lot of people may not have seen this, and it should be on Netflix soon, right? Because they always do
Yeah,
it.
I don't know when the official release date for the U.S. is. I mean, it's already on Netflix on other places. And in Japan, it's being released on a regular weekly schedule, I believe. I don't know if the dubbing is all done, but I know that the subbing for all of them, is done as it's being released. So they've already put a lot of work ahead of the time into it.
And just as a note, though, this one has a very odd episode count. It goes one beyond 13. So I think we are like 2 or 3 episodes away from the finale of this series, but like it wouldn't fit into a normal schedule anyway.
Right. And it started slightly later than others.
Yeah.
We're on episode 10, or maybe it's 11 now.
I think it is 11, but yeah, it goes to 14. So
yeah, 11 aired. So yeah, I mean, it's everything you would expect from Kyoto Animation, right? KyoAni, it has I keep saying this from previous times, but they adapted what would be maybe a okay light novel, and they've made it actually really interesting. They have added, by all counts, something like 6 of the aired episodes, maybe 5. 5 of the aired episodes were original content to develop the characters and the world more in depth than what could be provided by the actual light novels. The animation is gorgeous. Sometimes it just is it's you're watching it and you realize what anime could be compared to some of the others, and it really sometimes crushes your soul, especially hearing about other things like the Markham Mel Tendon or whatever that's going through this disastrous production right now. So
Mado Marchin or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Marchin.
No one really knows, but yes, that show, which I have no idea because I didn't even start watching it. So it is just really, really gorgeous. And then on top of which, you're layering this huge personal arc across the first 9 episodes and setting up for Violet to actually become truly human in a sense, because she was brought up as a weapon, not entirely sure, but some sort of orphan that got picked up and was trained to be just a killing machine, right? And now that the war is over, she has to not regain, she actually has to find humanity that she never had. And it's sometimes a really, really painful thing to watch as she comes to these realizations and emotions and feelings. But I really, I would recommend this, to anyone that's interested in great storytelling and beautiful animation. But yeah, it's been fantastic.
So
I was personally surprised to actually kind of hear that the initial characters that helped develop, Violet Evergarden and the company were original to the studio. I was like, what? That wasn't part of the story? That worked so well though. I'm actually surprised. And absolutely, there is beautiful animation all over the place, especially in particular episodes, but just the style of the characters is not your typical anime. They don't really pull any punches with stuff like hair detail, and a lot of shows will be very bland just to make it easier at the drawing level. So it's very nice to see shows like this. And the funny thing is, it's so episodic that you could almost just recommend particular episode chunks to watch out of order. Not that I would recommend doing so, but I just really got that idea with I think it was not most recent, but more recent. It was either 10 or 9, where they did this story about her heading out to a house to write a set of 50 letters. And that episode was done so well that it was I think people, if this was the episode that it was a gateway episode more so than a gateway anime, this was just such a nice polished story that it needs to transcend its anime-ness and just reach anyone anywhere kind of a deal.
Actually, the newest episode.
No, it's the second. That was episode 10.
Yeah, I was thinking it was probably 10. But I threw OreAni as caution.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, the culmination, the reason you feel so much emotion in that is, not just the story of the family there, but also Violet's realization as she, tells her colleagues So without the arcs before it, seeing her growth as a person, I don't think the emotional impact would be as great as it could be if you just watched a single episode.
That was just the moment when it's like people should watch the series and be surprised by this moment. But at the same time, you could almost have it transcend the character that is Violet because it's a very human reaction, but that's what made it important. Any viewer of the show will know what I mean by that, but it's not unreasonable for a person to react that way so that it wouldn't necessarily rub them the wrong way. But I know what you're saying with it. It loses impact if you didn't know where she's coming from.
The one thing I thought and I really liked about the show was that although episodic and it targeted Violet, it was always like a storytelling from another person's perspective. Like the narration always started from the person that she's encountering and how they met her, and then it starts telling the story of what happened between them. And it was a fun way, I thought, because it's not just like you're just watching a show. It's like they're trying to tell you something about what's going on, and I really like that.
Yeah, about the only thing I didn't really like about it, and not that I'm complaining, but there's not a whole lot that I know about war injuries, but I just didn't like how her injuries were shown being acquired and what some people suffer through, because it does have small elements of war because she has a history with war, kind of like what we were saying with Citrus, the mom buys a single bed for two teenagers who just were found out they were sisters. The way that she would sustain some injuries and then pull through in the immediate moments after that, not with certain elements that you believe should be there, obviously lacking, is the only thing that kind of shook my faith of the series. Not that I'm complaining about it, I just feel that it was somewhat it was anime sci-fi. It wasn't realistic, nor would I want it to be, but
right. Yeah, I get what you're saying, and that scene in particular I don't think worked very well, but yeah, it is what it is.
Mm.
But there's a lot of good staff and upcoming staff, I think, on this production, and it's production really done right. Obviously, that Kyoto Animation is known for being on time and having a solid schedule and programming and managing all of that and keeping it under budget. So many other people more knowledgeable than I have written about it. So I would suggest you go take a look at some of those. And they really do train their newcomers and groom them to take over key positions. So from a behind the scenes, I think it's also a fascinating look at the industry.
Also, if you follow them on Twitter, they got a lot of short videos of some of the production stuff they do, making the background or drawing the cells. They have a few little videos on their Twitter that you can watch that were pretty fun, I thought.
Yeah, they do post a fair amount of content. So
I think something that I'd like to add is that that it's kind of unfair to say that this is the usual KyoAni, we know that they're good and here's more of that. I think they get incrementally better with every production or two. So if you haven't seen a KyoAni thing since Amagi Brilliant Park or Choo Choo Koi or whatever, then this is like way the fuck better than any of those. It's on the animation level.
I do agree with that.
But I think it's just kind of part of the product too. Like I don't think like Shoot the Koi would ever have like as much attention to detail of a single character.
Yeah, it would be inappropriate to have like really complicated character designs for something like Choo Choo Koi because it's a comedy series. Yeah, that's definitely true, but
yeah, but I mean, even in Chunikoi, when we talked about way back, I had mentioned all these original, parts that KyoAni added to make it even better. And like my favorite character, Kumin Senpai, was a complete KyoAni original. So I'm like, okay, great. And I've actually enjoyed a lot of their original content, even though some of it might not have hit the cultural landmarks or high note. But
are you talking about
these
like original in terms of some like based on a light novel that they published, or like actual anime original?
Actual anime original. I think the last really anime original
Tamako Market?
Probably Tamako Market, which I really enjoyed. But I think isn't Free Free also original?
I think that's based on a KyoAni published light novel.
Oh, it is. Okay.
It was called High Speed or something like that.
Oh, that's why. Okay, different. But yeah, I mean their last two that they've done, which is Sound Euphonium 2, brilliant, right? And Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, which I personally loved, and but it's still a little bit. Many people had issues with it. I think for the wrong reasons, but I think their storytelling has gotten better and better with each product that they work on.
Yeah, so I wonder if in like 4 years we're going to be talking about like we haven't seen a KyoAni thing since Violet Evergarden. Well, wait till you see this.
Yeah.
Isn't there CG also integrator?
Say it again?
Didn't Albert make a comment that their CG with anime integration is also getting really good? Like when he mentioned Kobayashi-san.
Yeah, I think I mentioned that about like some of the background art, looked seamless, right? And I know some of those were CG, so I'm not sure about Violet Evergarden, how much of it percentage is CG, but whatever, yeah, that'll be a whole nother story, I think, to cover.
All right, Violet Evergarden. I think we just have one title left.
I do want to say though, I do think I haven't read the content, but I do think Free is more original than we're kind of thinking, because like they actually did put out a movie, Kyoto Animation, in 2015. So I don't know, like it should be on discs by now, but it was called High Speed, exclamation mark, Free Starting Days. And it's like, it sold itself as a prequel to Free, but also an adaptation of the light novel High Speed. So it's like that kind of was its own movie, and then like Free is like a continuing spin-off of originality from that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I see it. It's a prequel film.
Yeah, but it predated, it came out after the first Free content, but that's why I think Free retains its original status, is because like the light novel that it was all based off of didn't actually cover as far as the Free content.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know that.
But
yeah, I can't say I read the book, so
I think KyoAni is necessarily liberal with their adaptations of their own like published light novels.
Yeah, possibly.
Because their light novels are usually kind of shitty. from what I've read anyway.
What the heck? Yeah. The next one is coming out next month. Liz and the Blue Bird. Film. OreAni film, which is a continuation of Sound Euphonium. I don't know if you've seen the trailer for it yet, but yeah, it looks good. Okay.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next title here, which I think, what was it? Be the Beginning?
Yeah, this thing's...
Netflix.
This is our last title.
Yeah, it's another actual Netflix original in the sense that, you know, it released all at once, binge watch style. You know, before that, it wasn't shown on Japanese TV or anything like that. So it's like one day I started up Netflix. I'm like, oh shit, this whole series is just here. I guess I'm gonna stay up watching it. This thing's kind of a mess, but it's an entertaining mess at least. It has a whole lot of things going on in it because there's a serial killer, but there's also another serial killer, but there's also this like super powered zombie mercenary squad in it. But then there's also this conspiracy to recreate ancient gods, and then in the middle of that is some sort of special investigation agency that I'm not quite sure what they are exactly. Like, are they kind of like the analog to the FBI, or are they some animated up thing like Section 9 from Ghost in the Shell? But anyway, and they're in some like pseudo-Italian fantasy kingdom. There's a whole lot of stuff going. There's lots of things going on in this anime. It's a mess, but it is entertaining and it's very slick. But I wish it was more idiosyncratic, I guess. You know, I wish it tried to be more than just entertaining. So I like Devilman Crybaby much more than this. Because Devilman Crybaby is at least idiosyncratic and it has a little bit more focus and, you know, it has more soul to it, I guess. Or Be the Beginning is kind of like this anime action entertainment package for Netflix, and you can watch it and then forget that you saw it a week later.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, like I actually haven't been able to check it out because I'm in particular, I'm not like a fan of these batch releases because I kind of have like a high animation watch list. So, like, and all that I have to do to kind of pull through the week as to like, you know, not like fall a full like week behind or whatever. I just can't really fit in these like 12 episode drops. Like, no, that's just another thing I can't check out. Like, because like if I ever fall lax with the season, maybe, but it's so weird just to like have them all drop and it's like, geez, that's just too much.
Yeah, I wish there was some midpoint, some compromise they could do where it's like, we're going to release 3 episodes every week, you know, so that it's not excruciating like a conventional TV anime, but it's also just not like this rush to the finish line when we drop it like a full batch, binge watch style.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I haven't. I was trying to watch this, but I never got around to it. And I know there's a couple other Netflix Netflix anime that just dropped. I think that Sword Guy one, and Aiko, right?
Yeah.
But you know, I did listen to a podcast about this show in particular, and they said that it's interesting because unlike more traditional weekly anime, they felt that the way the story was constructed was essentially geared towards binge watching, right? So that you could keep on watching episode after episode. And
right.
They also mentioned that unlike traditional, weekly episodes, it seemed more, and in the Japanese, it was much more. They said that they were comparing it to various crime dramas that you would see in overseas, like in Britain or U.S. And I think they mentioned things like, CSI and Sherlock and these kinds of shows where the way the story was structured was less Japanese, like more towards an international audience.
Yeah, I can see that. It was not episodic, that's for sure.
So, I mean, in some cases, I think, that points to the ability to tell story arcs, right, and be able to just throw it out as content. Whereas if you were doing it episode by episode weekly, right, you could lose a lot of audience because, oh, I need to watch the next one to actually know what's happening, and that's a week later. Whereas if you had the entire content, you could just binge watch 2 or 3 episodes all at once and decide, yeah, okay, I want to continue this, right? So the inherent way the storytelling, I think, might be different. I don't know if that's true or not, but
yeah, it's pretty seamless. I guess another thing that adds to it being seamless is that the opening credits are 15 seconds long.
okay.
Yeah, that got me big time because I'm used to a certain skip, and I'm like, wait, too far.
You guys are horrible people.
Actually, no, I just noticed it, but Netflix has added the skip intro button
Oh, jeez.
when I started watching anime. And I'm like, what? I could just press this button to skip now? It's great.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. It's like, why would I click this button? Like, I'm only saving like 10 seconds clicking this.
Well, like,
at least for this
like
show.
if it works on their anime titles, that could be like a legit 130 skip, but I just fundamentally hate it.
But be the beginning. I thought it was somewhat entertaining. It was pretty good. Some of the subtitling I didn't like because they put out a lot of information when like the detective was thinking. Maybe some of it wasn't really important. They didn't feel like they had to subtitle it, but they did every once in a while like put key words out there. But sometimes it got mixed with when he was talking or doing his inner dialogue, and you're like, wait, what was he saying? What part was the text on the background, or which part was he saying?
I think that's just kind of poorly designed visual storytelling because it is just like information overload. Like when so I kind of zoned out the visuals and I just like read the subtitles. I'm like, okay, there's some fancy motion graphics going on, but it's not trying to be like Hyoka or something, right? Where it's like you really need to interpret these graphics because this is the thought process. So I just sort of took that as like stylization, and I just read the subtitles and didn't worry about what was happening on the screen.
Unless like it reminds you enough of the Bakemonogatari days, and you had to like space bar real quick to get
Yeah.
What was that paragraph in there that would only be present for like 2 seconds?
Yeah, but even those were like almost never worth reading because they were kind of there for style. But it was annoying because every once in a while it was worth reading. So you're like, God damn it, I got to read all these. I actually missed something.
All right. Anyone else have anything to add?
I just wanted to point out that the director, right, his name is Kazuto Nakazawa, and he's done a lot of supporting roles. I mean, but he doesn't have a lot of actual, as the anime. What am I saying? He has director roles that are few and far in between, but he has a lot of roles doing like layouts and animation supervision director and episode director. And so, being able to have Netflix back someone like that to try to bring his original content as, director, right? Because he wrote the original story, and he is the director, and he also did the character designer for Be the Beginning. So, in a sense, giving someone that is a veteran of the industry an actual, a step up. He's able to step up to full control over a product versus up until now he might have been, bespoken to other entities, and he never got to have his break as a full content creator. So I don't know. In that sense, the Netflix debate will continue to rage on, whether it's good or bad for the industry, and in what role and what needs to change. But at least we do see people like him getting a full control over a product that he wants to bring, a story that he wants to bring to the audience, and in that sense, I think it's a good thing. So we'll see if this will hold true in the future, or it's still going to be a production committee hell.
Yeah, I was actually as hyped for this thing as I was for Devilman Crybaby, because Nakazawa is a really good animator and designer. So in my opinion, two of the best things you can see from him are Samurai Champloo, because he did design and a whole lot of animation in it, and also Zankyo no Terror, which it's not his fault that show kind of sucked, but the look of it was really cool. It had a really good look, and that is definitely Nakazawa's look. So that
and both of those he's credited as what would this be, animation supervisor. So he oversaw all of the animation, right?
Yeah, and he did the character designs, which is pretty common for the character designer to also be the animation supervisor.
Yeah, and it looks like he did the OP for Zankyo.
Yeah, and he animated a few action bits in it too.
Right.
But Nakazawa is really cool, but I really wish that Be the Beginning would be more like Devilman Crybaby in the sense of being this expression of the idiosyncratic animator. But I think his approach was let's make something popular, something that Western audiences will like, and he filled it, with all these kind of Western TV tropes. Mm-hmm. And it's entertaining, but it doesn't really leave much of an impression.
Okay.
I will say that some of the fight scenes were pretty fucking cool. There's that one on the lake or something in the rain, maybe around episode 4 or so. I remember that one being really good.
Okay.
Oh, with the skateboarding kid?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good looking fight, and constantly went from real time to slow motion, and the raindrops kind of falling slowly down to the earth, and there, a lot of interesting visual ideas there. But yeah, that's all I got to say about Be the Beginning.
Okay, cool.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, 3 viewers, for watching and staying with us. Been fun. Now, this is no April Fool's trick or anything, but we won't be here next week. We got a convention that I'm going to. I think Nick's going to be going to SakureCon, so we'll be out there. If you see us or see him, say hi. I don't think you've seen me too many times. I don't know. Albert, are you going to be heading there for that convention, or?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I currently am not planning on going. So we'll see if that changes, but yeah, my schedule was a little bit too up in the air to make a commitment. So.
All right. Well, if anything, I'll send you a message on Hangouts and we can have dinner. But there should be some other, I think, Google Plus people heading out there. So check out Anime Talk and see all the news that we're posting up. I think someone's been posting up quite a few of the previews for the next season, what's come. And I think if we do have time, or if we can, I'll post out maybe the week after. So I guess the second weekend of April, we'll have a Anime Talk for the other titles we missed. So we can catch up on the
Most
rest
of
of the
them will
titles
be
we
done
didn't
airing
discuss.
by then.
Yeah. We can have a little fun discussion then. So once again, be sure to check out Anime Talk, and thank you all for watching OreAni. Bye, B.
Yep.